All right, friends, welcome to another episode of ZBrush on the iPad. Now, today I'm excited. We recently had a new update from the folks at Maxon, adding some, you know, relatively sizable updates, some new features. We got UV mapping, we've got, surface noise, um, some more capabilities with texturing. So it's a good day. So today, I want to talk about UV mapping. So I've got this character that I've started creating. It's got a ways to go. I wanted to work on the shirt at this point. So got a simple mesh for the shirt, 681 polygons. And, I want to draw a number on it and then take this into maybe another application, So currently, if you're painting in ZBrush using Polypaint, there's no way to really get that out. But with the addition of UV maps, we can do that. So, first of all, we need to create a UV map for our shirt. And first thing you want to check is go up to geometry and make sure you don't have any additional subdivision levels. So these are grayed out, so we're in good shape. Then we want to go to UV map, and you can see we've got, the top part is grayed out for now. You've got your UV map size, so like the size of your texture. I've currently got it set to 2K. It'll go all the way up to 8K. Then you've got your UV map border size, and not 100% sure if that's the edge of the 2K or if it's the border within the different islands. I think it's the former. And then we've got several different automatic projection types. So, disclaimer, this is not as powerful, anywhere near as powerful as the desktop version. There's some real control that you can get when unwrapping. But here it's just kind of some automatic projections, which you can try these out for yourself. I'm not 100% sure what each one of them mean. I think UVB is probably UV box, UVBT is a box T, UV tile, you just get a bunch of little tiles based on your polygon size. And then, but what I'm liking is this GUV tiles. So it gives me pretty large islands, and it seems to, minimize the number of seams, at least for something like this shirt. But, if UVS means UV sphere, which it might, then if you have a spherical object, you're going to want to use that. UVB, if you have a cube, that's going to be your go-to. So play around with these. It's easy to get rid of them. So what I'm going to do is choose GUV tiles. I'll click that. You don't really see anything happen here, but it does give us some ability to adjust the ratio of the UV and the height repeat or horizontal repeat and vertical repeat. Some additional adjustments, and this just kind of shifts where exactly the UV is landing. You could flip your UV on the U or the V. Play around with it. But so we've got it unwrapped, and then this has made these options here no longer grayed out. So I'm going to go ahead and solo. So we're just looking at the shirt. And if I hit Morph UV, what that does, it morphs our shirt into the flattened UV tile. So this is what was created. And, I'm just glad that they're relatively large tiles, because then there's less seams. And I would like it if it was more organic and there was more we could do, but maybe in a future version. And I know you're probably all asking, okay, well, let's see some other unwraps. Okay, we'll do that. Let's delete the UV. You don't necessarily have to delete it. You can just keep toggling through these. like if I hit the UVB and then do the Morph UV, you can see what this has created. And so, this is the top looking down. This is kind of the front and some sides. So that's why I'm thinking this is a cube that's been unwrapped. We go to, gotta get out of Morph UV. We can try another one here. Oh, I clicked it again. It's too quick. Try UV tile. Okay, let's check out Morph UV. All right, so that's just giving us one big old tile. And it's hard to tell what's going on, but just based on how sluggish it is, I think there's a bunch of little, polygons built up there. But it just looks like a solid yellow wall. So, anyways, play with that. I'm going to go back to GUV, and then we'll jump over to texture map. And what you can do is kind of play with a couple of these options. Like maybe you want to see new from UV map. Click on that, and so you can see where your seams are. Not ideal, but less seams than a lot of those other ones. Maybe we want to do new UV check. And I was expecting something different there. But let's just do a new texture. So that's going to take the color in the foreground and just create a texture based on that. Got to click on it to update it. So we've got a new yellow texture. It's UV mapped. We're happy with that. What we want to do is Polypaint from the texture, okay? But before clicking on that, I'm going to go up to geometry, because when you're polypainting, that depends on the resolution of your poly mesh, your polygons. So we'll divide that 2 or 3 times, make sure it's on smooth. I'm going to keep, this as editable, so I can dial it back all the way down to where we were, because that'll be important. But we want it on the highest level. Okay, then we're going to go back to texture map, and we're going to say Polypaint from texture. And then it's telling me that my RGB is off. So pick a brush where your RGB's on. I don't want my Z add on. I've got RGB on. You can see it here. Now let's try that again. Polypaint from texture. And then we didn't really see much happen because we've got a yellow texture right now, which is what we had before. So to see if it actually worked, let's grab a color. I'm going to use purple of her hair. And then I'm going to grab a different alpha here, something with a hard edge. And you can see her skin is poking through the shirt a few spots. That's just because we smoothed it a lot, but that's not a problem for now. So now I can add some deep to it. What do we do? Sometimes my fingers will accidentally do undo when I rinse my hand on here, so gotta be careful of that. Okay, when we're not seeing anything, what's going on? Well, I'll tell you. Gotta go back to texture map. So let's make sure Polypaint from texture. Okay, so we're there. Then we got to turn the texture off. Okay, and then start to Polypaint. And this is frustrating because we're not seeing it. Come on now. Is the texture turned back on somehow? All right. Come on, friends. Patience. Okay, so we're painting, doing our Polypaint thing. You know, this is kind of bugging me, the fact that I'm seeing her skin underneath that, so I can grab, a brush, a different brush, and paint it back up above the surface. Smooth it, paint. There we go. Now the skin's not poking through. Let's go back to our standard brush, which is where we had our RGB painting set up, and just painting in a purple color, because why not, right? This is a retro, I don't know, a rugby style shirt. I'm sure there's people out there that know better than me. And again, it's based on the number of polygons that we have active. And so this, you get close, you can see some pixelating, but this is a start. This gets us, where we want to go. And we could potentially take this into another app like Painter or Blender, Maya, Cinema 4D. Use this set of UVs to and bake it to another set of UVs, and then clean up the texture painting and really do it right. But we're just dealing with what we've got, and that's what we're talking about. All right, so let's do the sleeves, same type of treatment. And obviously, like anything, the more time you spend, better it's liable to look. Oh, there is a point where you get in diminished returns. You might actually make it worse, but I would argue that most people don't ever get to that point. So there we go. We've got collar, we've got sleeves. We're not in texture mode right now, so this is just the traditional poly painting, right? I'm gonna get out of perspective mode, turn off my symmetry, and then we're gonna give her a number on her shirt. Why not? Go ahead and do a number 4. Gonna kind of sketch that in first. Yeah, what's that 4 gonna look like? I start coming in with a little heavier pressure to get our full opacity and get this bad boy cleaned up a bit. Okay, and then I like to pick the color of the shirt, clean it up. I can see I'm gonna have to go back to purple as well because I've missed some spots. And this is what I'm talking about when it's like you take some time, you can make it pretty clean. And if you want your texture to be even sharper, then work at a higher polygon count or subdivision level. Okay. All right. Looking all right. Could be worse. I don't know. That's 4 as centered as I would like it to be. There's probably a way to move it. But you could repaint it, you could move it, whatever. But we're just pretending like we're happy with that. Okay, so we've got our 4. Now back to texture mapping. And then let's turn this texture back on. Goes away. Then we want to do new from Polypaint. Boom. Now we're actually dealing with the texture there. And it's taking our Polypaint and turned it into a texture. You know, if you remember, we got all kinds of seams up in here, but it looks pretty clean, right? And that is good. Then we go back to geometry and we start walking this back down. You can see we're back down to low polygon level, but the texture retains its relative sharpness. So that, my friends, is how UV mapping can help us here in ZBrush. And now we can, essentially use these type of simple UV maps for, simple games, online things, where there isn't a lot of crazy textures going on maybe, and get some pretty good results. Now you may ask, okay, well, how do we get that texture out of here, right? How do we get it into another application? So that, my friends, is a good question. If we go into our textures, we can see it's not there. Okay, so once you're happy with your texture, you hit clone texture. That puts it into our textures. Okay. Then we can go to our texture palette, and we've got it here. It's usable. And now we can go to export texture. It's got the current texture selected. And pick, what format do we want it exported as. We'll stick with PNG. Hit export. It'll say, great, where do you want to put it? Thanks for asking. I will put it in my files. I've got this 3D files thing. I could name this thing, but we'll just keep it extract 9. Hit save. Now that texture is somewhere else on my iPad, right? So if I were to go to my files, pull that up, there it is, extract 9. I can then maybe save it as an image. So now it's a photo in my photo library, right there, okay. Now I could go to an application like Procreate, bring that in, and start to work with it in here. It should be noted that you can also paint models here in Procreate as well. It's a whole different process, but let's just make some changes quickly to this. Now, this is where having more nonsensical kind of 3D UV mapping is the disadvantage, right? So it looks like we got part of the 4 here and then the rest of it over here. So let's say I wanted to come into Procreate because, I like the brushes in here. I want to get some kind of crazy texture brush. I don't know, let's just get crazy. Yeah, I really wanted this brush and wanted to paint around the 4, give it some crazy furry texture, and then come over here, do the same thing. Now, it's not going to line up very well, but Get the idea. All right, we'll do a little bit in here. And there we go. Now I could save that. So let's share it. We're gonna export it as a PNG. Let's go ahead and save it to files because that's where the other one is. We'll just keep it as the image 1033, hit save, and then back over to ZBrush on the iPad. Okay, so here's our original texture. We can go back into Tool, Texture Map, and actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. We gotta import the texture first. So texture, select the file. Here it is, 1033. Bringing it in, import. Okay, now over here, if I click on this, there it is. Boom, it's added the updated texture. So that's the advantage of having UV maps here in ZBrush. And have fun, my friends. Until next time, happy ZBrushing.